enough with the rambling. I know what you're really here for. I have this dude in the corner. We have Sean Chiplock. Who needs
Hey,
no introduction.
I mean, well, you just introduced me. Then you've already done the thing you said shouldn't be done. Now you've destroyed causality, and now you've started us on a path to the destruction of the universe. But you know what? I like you. You're a cool guy. So as the threads of my body are being torn apart by the end of space-time continuum, I'm gonna think of you, Robert Jackson. I'm gonna go, you know what? He's a pretty cool kid. I like him.
Yeah, you know what? I like him. He's pretty straightforward, and he's got like a huge mega collection of posters behind him.
Right.
I mean, we're all nerds, so...
As a heads up, I know that you mentioned that your audio might get glitchy. I think it already sounds like it's kind of glitching where it's a little staticky. Is that going to be in your recording? Like, is this something where you want to see if you can fix it before we continue on? Or is this just pretty normal for you?
That I'll have to double check.
Okay.
But just in case, yeah. I know it's pretty much, like, it should be okay and good to go for right now.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Well, I know that on my end, my audio should come in clean. So if nothing else, if you need to, you can just record yourself down the line. But don't worry about it. Let's move on. So, tell me about yourself, Robert. Like, what got you into interviewing? What got you started down this path?
Pretty much, like, you know, I like voice actors. Pretty much, like, I'm kind of one of those, I guess, I don't want to say socially outcast, but even, like... If it does sound kind of somewhat accurate, I just really like talking to people and, you know, learning more about the business and, you know, just getting to know about, you know, their journeys and all that good jazz and getting to talk to just people that are unique. They have interesting stories and, you know, just a lot of that stuff. So I pretty much like doing this just as like to learn about, you know, what's going on, and also get to know more about the person, you know.
Cool. Very
like,
cool.
Outside of, you know, the work that they do. I mean, I do love the work. I do love me some really good performances, but what really captivates me is the person behind, you know, the characters, behind the microphone. You know, like, when you go back to, like, Mel playing with Looney Tunes and, you know, the old days of, like, you know, cartoons and stuff like that.
Right.
I've just always been somebody who's, you know, I just really love storytelling and I love, you know, I love acting. That's kind of something that I've always been interested in since I was a kid. So
have you been doing any like indie jobs in your spare time? Have you been like sending out auditions, or is it just kind of something where it's like, I want to dabble in it, I want to learn more about it, and this is kind of how I'm going to start to build my understanding of the network, of the career?
I've been doing this for a while. I would say that I'm like coming up to 6 years, coming up in September, and I'm still, because all of us, we never stop learning, and we are always kind of like students of, you know, VO and pretty much the various changes that have been happening, what's been going on in the industry, and I know you can certainly attest to that, especially for the last 3 years. But yeah, that's my story.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, it's not so often I get asked questions, because usually
I know.
Yeah.
I kind of throw things on their side that way, but it was good to get to learn about you a little bit, because sometimes, you know, it's just interesting to know the driving force behind the folks who are asking us the questions. And like, you know, it's easy to ask people questions, but if there's like a personal reason behind it, if there's something that you're hoping to learn for yourself, in addition to presenting something to the audience, you know, the collaborative process gets a little bit more fun that way, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I guess we could just pretty much get right to the nitty gritty.
Okay.
Yeah. So I know it's been like, well, years or so, but yeah, just tell us a little bit like about all this stuff that you've been working on as of late, and, you know, just anything that we can just throw right off the bat that you want to share, that you want to promote, that's not under NDA and stuff like that. So,
man,
just want to get that out there. So just gotta get that right.
For sure. So I've gotten to the point now where I just open up my public resume, the one that anyone can access, because it is so hard to keep track of what I'm allowed to talk about and what is still under NDA at this point. And obviously, you know, I want to play it on the safe side. Well, I know that Advanced Wars just came out. Advanced Wars Reboot Camp, I believe it is. And I got to voice Hachi, who I believe is the shopkeeper. I forget whether or not they're also a playable character, but I'm very, very excited that I finally got to announce that. After Image just came out recently. I voiced 5 different characters in that. I'm probably butchering their pronunciations, but I think it's Akil, Brander, Ferryman, Roke, and Whitefeather. I don't know if any of them in particular are specifically important to the story, but with games like that, I'm always jazzed about the ability to get to portray wildly different characters, because Akil doesn't sound anything like Roke. Rogue has a different tonality from Whitefeather. The Ferryman is a character all in his own right, and I really enjoyed how I approached him as well. So it's also a really good action RPG. If people are familiar with games like Dust and Elysian Tale, Hollow Knight, Sundered is one that it draws a lot of comparisons to me. I think that they would really get a kick out of After Image, and I hope they'll check it out. Let's see. We had Octopath Traveler 2 come out recently, where I voiced Pyro and Claude. We had a couple Smite roles that I was able to talk about. We've got Blood Raven Horus, Lich Madness, Muzen Cab, and most recently the G.I. Joe Duke skin for Ho Yi, which I thought was really fun. The one that's kind of taking online by storm is actually Tale of Food. It's a mobile game that has a lot of very attractive men based off of classic Asian food and meals and plates and stuff like that. And I voice a couple characters. I voice Steamed Cured Meat, Yi Pin Pot, and Long Jing Shrimp. And I like them for a lot of different reasons, because Cured Meat kind of reminds me of like a character that I could see Todd Habercorn doing, and I really enjoyed playing that kind of sassy, younger vibe. Yi Pin Pot, on the other hand, is very deep and posh and very calm and like, I wouldn't say whimsical, but just reflective of the world around him. And Long Jing Shrimp is kind of a brat, but apparently he's stupidly powerful in the game. So I hope that I get to see him in use a lot, solely because he's so good of a unit to have. So there's really a wide spread of games, a lot of indie games, a couple of mobile games. There's some bigger stuff coming down the pipeline that I can't talk about yet, but in the grand scheme, I'm just super happy to be working consistently, and I'm super happy that I'm getting to showcase so much of my range at the same time.
Yeah, definitely. Like,
yeah.
So sorry about that. But anyways, yeah, gotta love tech issues. Such is the nature of the biz. But anyways, right. What was I saying? Oh yeah, because I've seen you grow, and I've watched you like literally blossom, over the years, because I remember that you were, I think it was around the same time that I last spoke with you. I think it was around the time that, Zelda, Breath of the Wild, that stuff kind of was still fresh and brand new. So now you've been in a lot more stuff, like ReZero, various different projects that I know.
It gets to a point where it's hard for me to remember too. Like when I introduce myself, I'm like, I'm in Persona 5 and ReZero and Breath of the Wild, and then I'm like, oh, those are all like 3-4 years old. Stuff I'm in that came in last year is I can't remember.
I have to go on IMDb and be like, oh wow, okay, so he's been in this, you've been, and not only that, but commercials, promos, and so much. I think you've been doing corporate narration.
Yes, most people don't hear the corporate stuff that I do, but it is definitely the work that helps pay the bills. Like, for example, right after I'm done with this interview, I've got a couple management e-learning projects that I got to record for. There's a video sales letter that I have to record for. I think there's a security company that wants me to do something for them. And I guarantee you, none of you would have heard these things unless you worked at the companies that they're for. But these jobs consistently pay the bills outside of the studio work that I do.
Yeah, right on, man. So let's see. Outside of everything you've been doing, I know that you've been working on a lot of different projects. So what is something new that we can discuss? Well, I mean, obviously the last couple of years have just been tumultuous, to put it best. That's the best way that I could describe it. So what I want to ask you is I know that I I mean, I usually don't really keep track of a lot of like because I know voice actors they have Twitter and social media and whatnot. So
Right.
I know with this pandemic, I know that a lot of people are at least gotten vaccinated and they're like still working and all that good jazz. So like for you personally, I think I saw a while back that you unfortunately ended up getting the thing. So
We figured a solution to it. So
yeah.
I'm grateful to have a second chance at that. People are able to follow me at VA Sonic Mega. And it was an important lesson in understanding both the power but also the reach that social media has. I'm honestly grateful for those kinds of lessons because I feel like a lot of us grew up during an era where we had this unlimited access to the web where we could connect with communities that we shared interests in, but we didn't really understand like how much of our info we were making available online, but also how many people we were making ourselves available to, whether or not we intended for it. And especially for someone like myself who had a growing audience, who I hope to continue to grow my audience, even though I have to start back from square one. Um, Understanding the way that I need to conduct myself, or at least the risks that I'm taking if I choose to conduct myself in a certain way, is a very important thing to keep in mind. And I know it's hard to say this without it sounding like I'm complaining, but I think it's an important reminder that when everyone on the web has access to the same tools when it comes to reporting people, when it comes to muting or blocking or responding to them, there is an ability for people to work as a larger group in order to accomplish things that maybe a single person can't do. They can do that for good. They can do that, out of malice. And so it's just important to be aware of how you're presenting yourself and how others might interpret and respond to that, especially when you're in a position like myself where you need access to a social media account in order to further your marketing, further your branding, advertise yourself to potential clients and conventions. As much as we would like for it to be a space for us to voice our opinions, unfortunately, we do have to be aware or cognizant of the folks who are listening to those opinions and the power that they have to act on things that they might not like. So,
Absolutely. Um, and I guess to piggyback off of the pandemic stuff, like I know that VO has kind of gained, like, at least from what I'm noticing, it's kind of like, how can I say this? It definitely, everybody just started getting a lot busier after COVID. Like, seriously.
it was for a couple of reasons. I mean, it also could, on one hand, it could be subjective because, of course, things dropped off immensely. Studios couldn't work, or at least they weren't willing at that time to go into remote recording. But when they finally either, gave into it or finally got back into the groove, not only did they have those projects that had been delayed that they had to catch up on, they also had all the new projects that were coming in, which of course was now compounding upon itself and causing even more delays and more backups. So it's entirely possible that it was also just this cavalcade of work that needed to be taken care of. And then, of course, dealing with any new work coming in on top of the delays that were already being dealt with. But also, with the advent of remote work, came this accessibility, which is waning in recent years, recent months, as more studios are starting to be getting back into the mentality of, well, we would really prefer to have people come in studio to record. But it did allow remote recording to be seriously considered, and it did open at least a couple of doors, if not a couple dozen doors, for remote talent to potentially be able to work from home, which means not only do we have more projects coming down the pipeline, we also had a wider breadth of talent accessible to audition, which contributed to it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know that remote recording was also, growing a lot more prominent. Like, technically, remote recording, like, I know that we would usually record, like, if you're repped with an agency, like we used to. I mean, you can still do the auditions from home, but getting to work in a studio is like, personally for me, I just really like working with you just get the joy of getting to collab with, the director, the client, and you just
I
really,
agree. A lot of that can still be
yeah,
done remotely. I can still collaborate with the director. I still get access to
yeah,
the clips that I can perform live. The one piece that I think differs greatly is the engineering side, because There's often a lot of times in the home studio where I have to be in charge of the gain on my microphone and make sure I'm not peaking it if I have to get loud or making it fall out. You know, if it's too quiet, if I haven't
Yeah.
turned the gain up enough, I have to be aware of any fan noise, of any laptop noise, of any outside noise. And these are all things that if I have to be cognizant of them can get in the way of a performance, especially if I'm like embodying a character who wouldn't know about any of these things. And now I'm constantly having to monitor it in the background. Whereas when I'm recording in a studio, there is an engineer adjusting all of that for me. I don't have to think about it, which allows me to focus solely on the performance. In addition, you get, especially when it comes to at home auditions, or God forbid if we have to record on our own time, though this is more for indie projects. I am someone who, as far as I'm aware of myself, I'd like to think that I'm very good at adapting to direction. When they say, can I get more of this? Can I get less of this? Can we try it from this angle? My experience has suggested to me that I am really good at being able to adapt according to someone else's instructions. But when I have to direct myself, when I have to make decisions about, is this good enough? Should it have more of this? Should it have less of this? I feel like I struggle because I grew up on anime. I'm a very animated person, very high energy person when I get excited about something. And I do know that patterns my reads. So especially when it comes to something that wants more grounded, realistic, theatrical reads, as they call it, I am stuck in this thing of like, is that enough? Am I emphasizing the right things? Am I emphasizing too much? Should I throw it away more? And I get in my own head about it. So being able to be in studio, in studio auditions are not really a thing unless you're doing callbacks. But I almost wish I could have more live auditions or in studio callbacks where the director is guiding me into what they want, because I would feel way more confident about that.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Getting into our heads is, yeah. That we could probably do like a whole episode on that. Like,
Right.
Yeah. I mean, at least there's improv, so
Right.
exactly. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot to go on about, like, the challenges and struggles when it comes to, navigating a way through, a really big crisis, especially since, like, there's the risk of, it could potentially cause some, long-lasting health issues, which is definitely,
Mhm.
um, that can be a really bad thing, especially if you work as a voice actor and,
Right.
when you have to do, like, the really, like, vocally stressful stuff, because, like, what if I don't know, you get, like, a long-term something, but yeah, I mean,
Right.
I will say that, like, in the case when I had COVID, like, all I had was just, I know that everybody's different when it comes to
Right.
their experiences with the virus, which is why, like, it's so just, it can be pretty scary if you have, like, pre-existing conditions beforehand. Like,
Right.
for me,
Or
like,
like if
yeah.
your immune system is compromised, yeah.
Oh yeah, like for me, man, my body was just in. Okay, how can I say this? It felt like it's worse than having a fever, where your body just like completely shuts down and it's just aching, and then like I ended up also getting a strep throat, so like it was really not. Okay, fun fact, I did a workshop, and for some reason, I was actually foolish enough to actually do like a really high-pitched, shrieking, like bird toad-like voice for it. I don't even remember, but yeah,
Okay.
it's a miracle that I was able to push through it. But don't follow my example. Just definitely listen to your body and just
Sure.
rest.
Definitely know
Just
your limits and especially know when to rest. Perfect example being this week. There was a day this week where I was triple booked. I had a 9 to 11,
oh
a 12:30 to
man,
4:30, and a 5:30 to 9:30. And I was in no condition to do any auditions when I came home that evening. I'm grateful that I did them all the day before because
Mm,
I came home and I was like, nope, it's not happening. On Thursday, it wasn't as intense, but it was just this kind of situation where it was like I could have recorded, but I was like, I know that I have 2 sessions the following day. I'm gonna just take care of myself and relax and see how I feel. And then yesterday, by the end of it, I was kind of toasted because of um, just everything that I had to do. There was a lot of screaming, there was a lot of elevated voices. So as much as I wanted to do those freelance jobs, then again, I was like, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna give myself a chance to recover. I wouldn't say I'm at 100%, but I'm definitely doing better today than I was yesterday. So now the hope is that I can knock those jobs out that I waited on, make them actually sound good, and then take care of them before I have to travel out. But I guarantee you, if I had said I have to do this now, and I had done those freelance jobs back on Thursday, even when I was feeling a little sore, it may have severely affected my ability to perform on Friday and affected the quality of my work for those clients.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that you've been streaming a lot on Twitch recently. And how would you, I don't really ask this too often, but how would you say like streaming on Twitch really helps you at least growing an audience and getting more connected with, um, your fan base and just getting to mingle with a lot of your peers and, all that good stuff. Getting
Sorry,
to
was
grow.
the question like what suggestion I have for making connections with your peers?
Well, how like the whole experience with Twitch is like, and how it helped you really grow an audience and stuff like that.
Well, it varies from person to person. Like for me, Twitch was not created as a way for me to build my branding and get myself in front of more people. It actually started because I was bored out of my goddamn mind during the pandemic. And I saw it as
Yes,
an
everyone
opportunity.
was.
I saw it as an opportunity to try something out that I previously constantly made excuses not to do. I was like, I don't have the time, I don't have the space, I don't know if I have the right equipment. But the time afforded to me by the downtime during the initial lockdown in California during COVID in 2020, I was like, all right, well, one of those major excuses it doesn't apply anymore, so let's go for it.
That was a
So
wild time.
right. So it's really more about understanding like what you enjoy doing, what makes you seem appealing to people, or what you want to share with others, and then finding an organic way to do that. There's some folks that love making silly skits on TikTok or Instagram and sharing that. That's not really my thing. Um, I really enjoy playing games that I'm a big fan of and nerding out over how I strategize and, break the game mechanics wide open. Some people may not consider themselves gamers and they don't want to do that. I would say in general, a good rule of thumb is, you want to integrate yourself into the community that you eventually want to become a working professional in. So if you are someone who's interested in voice acting, for example, I would join a voice acting forum, for example, the voice acting club that I help moderate nowadays, but was once an aspiring voice acting member of. If you're an artist, get involved in artist jams, get involved in artist community, see if a stream server that you're a part of has a channel dedicated to artists or like, if they do like little activities that are focused around art. Um, um, it's about, when people bring up a connection network, the wrong way to look at it is people that I make connections with solely because they can give me work. Instead, the way you should be looking at it is people who I share a passion with, that we can trade tips, that we can bring up opportunities. They are folks that I can help as often as I hope that they will help me.
Yeah, that's a pretty good way of putting it, really. I mean, for example, when I do this podcast, it's just a way of my way of giving my thanks to the people who have inspired me and, the folks that are like, just as eager and passionate about this stuff as I am. So this is pretty much what this podcast is. It's like we get to talk about how passionate we are, and we get to share our, experiences, like the challenges that come along the way. So that's pretty much what this is catered for. And I'm not trying to make this into one of these podcasts that are like, okay, so we just go through a checklist of questions to ask. I just want to make it fun and off the cuff and just nerd out about, franchises and properties. Like, for goodness sake, I have like a My Hero shirt for crying out loud. So that, I mean, you have your plushies in the background. So like that alone should tell you, like, yeah, we're all nerds. I think we're kind of kids that just never grew up, and we get to share it, with everybody else. So that's really one of the best feelings out there,
Yeah,
and
for
it's
sure.
really good. Um, and for the Ace Attorney live dubs, I also wanted to talk about that because those are
Okay.
actually a lot of fun to watch. So, did it also come from like, you know what? Maybe we should do something like this. And how has it progressed, Because you've got a lot of talented actors on board. So,
Sure.
yeah, you can check
Well, it has had both of its ups and downs. Like I would definitely say the first Ace Attorney live dub was very chaotic. But that's, you got to find your paces, you got to find what works out. Um, I the second one I would say was a lot more organized. You know, it felt like we had a lot of community going on. We had a lot of collaboration going on. Coming into the third game, I feel like we almost got it a little too perfected. You know, we had a proper audition casting call. We had voting for, you know, who ended up getting cast as the characters, even though I did blind voting so that, you know, we didn't have names attached to the audition files. But it did feel like in the spirit of efficiency, we were actually losing some of the good chaos, you know, the part that was giving people who may not have necessarily had the best fit for a character voice get to practice their chops, get to experience being a part of a cast. So I try to always learn from my experiences, you know, learn what I did really well, learn what could be done better. I don't know when the next live dub is going to happen. I did want to do kind of sort of a half live dub for Battle Network Legacy Collection, but I haven't had the chance to stream for several days in a row, even though I planned for it, just because life has had other plans between work and social invitations to different events and stuff like that, and the crap loads of travel that I've had to do. But at the end of the day, the live dubs for me are just a, you know, a no gatekeeping, no judgment zone method of getting people involved in VO, getting people trying it out. You know, it's not about, I don't want it to be about who is the absolute best voice. I want it to be like, who can bring life to these characters, who is excited to just get involved, to take part in these things, and just feel like find out if this is something they want to do. Because even after I knew that I wanted to do VO, you know, I still had those little reminders. Like, for example, when I helped a senior out with their thesis project, and I was in a very roughshod makeshift recording booth, and it was the most exciting thing in the world to me. But I needed that opportunity to confirm to myself, yes, this is something I want to do. And that's what I hope the live dub can be for other people. Excuse me. I'm so elated to say that as a result, or at least in relation to our Undertale live dub that we did, I can think of at least 2 actors who ended up booking other gigs and other projects because either I referred them to people and said, hey, I think your voice that you did for me for this could work really well for this. And there's other cases where the client said, I heard what you did on that live dub, and I was wondering if you'd audition for this project. And that's exactly the kind of thing that I wanted to have happen. I wanted them to be able to explore their range and then have a chance to revisit characters that they could do really well in a more professional capacity.
Exactly, man. Like, that's something that I'm starting to do now, like making projects, and it's purely because I just love doing them. Like passion stuff, writing original stories and getting a bunch of, friends and actors who I know are just, they just fit this part. And then, like, eventually, if somebody sees this, they're like, hey, I've heard you in this project that you've done with, this dude. I want you to audition for this. That's kind of, I think we're kind of mostly like, our minds are kind of similar at making passionate projects and helping other actors succeed, which is
Right.
certainly the case with, your life does. So, way to go, man. Way to go.
Thank you.
Yeah. I know that you've been doing a lot of work, so I wanted to ask, what hobbies have you picked up, after COVID, or just,
What hobbies have I picked up?
yeah.
So that's the fun part. I don't know if I can say I've picked up any hobbies because outside of streaming, or rather be between streaming, auditions, sessions, and everything else, I don't have time for myself anymore. There are many, many, many cases where my free time starts. I mean, a perfect example being today. For a lot of people, Saturday would be a rest day. For me, it was heading out to join friends at Ren Fair, which was fun, but for me, it is a social invitation or a social event, which I have to kind of emotionally, mentally prepare for. Came home, immediately did this interview. I am immediately going to hop onto doing freelance work after that. And as soon as the freelance work is done, depending on how much I choose to do tonight, that is when I then proceed to pack up for my trip tomorrow, go to sleep, fly out tomorrow to go to my event in Florida, which isn't even for a convention. It's something else that I've got to take care of. Do that until Tuesday afternoon. Come home on Tuesday afternoon. Do any on Tuesday evening. I'm gonna have to do any auditions that come in on Monday and Tuesday that I couldn't do because I was away from home. On Wednesday, I'm already double booked. I already have I believe a 12:15 to a 1:15, and then I have like a 1:45 to a 3:45 And then if I come home, if I'm streaming on that day, because I typically stream from 5 to 6 p.m., so I'm going to be streaming that day. Thursday currently only has one session, but Lord knows that might change by then. And then Friday, I fly out to a convention event. And if this sounds exhausting, if it sounds hard to follow, that's because this is it. This is my life schedule. There is very little, if any, time to just sit down and unwind and do something else during any of that. I'm constantly moving from one task to the next. The epitome of this is in May. Let me count real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I am home for 12 out of 31 days next month in May. Out of 31 days of the month, I'm actually home, able to be in my house for at least 1 hour of the day for 12 of them. All the other 19 days, I'm traveling out somewhere or I'm doing a signing at some place. It is that busy. So my hobby is keeping my head above water so that I can spoil my wife rotten, so that I can afford to take workshops, so that I can, on the few occasions where I do get to splurge, where I can treat myself. But the reality is, between owning a house, which I'm extremely grateful to have, and the estimated tax payments that I have to make, which only seem to increase by the year, there's a lot of catch up that I have to do. There's a lot of proactive building and proactive saving up that I have to do, and the work that's associated with that. So my hobby is working really hard, and my reward is getting more of it.
There you go. I think you kind of answered the next question that I have, which was biggest challenges and hurdles to overcome working as a full-time actor, which you've kind of technically already answered. So, let me see. What can actually, here's something that I really want to ask you. What are some of the projects that you've worked on that left a significant impact? Like, whether it be for your professional career, personally, like, what are some of the projects or the roles? What was the turning point in your career that you look back on and realize this is why I love doing this for a living?
That needs to always be happening for me. I actually worry about if I ever get complacent and I start getting to a point where I work on a new project and I go, yeah, that was fun, but it still wasn't as cool as this one that I did, 3 years ago. Case in point, like, I know that a lot of people are Legend of Zelda fans, and a lot of initial folks knew me through Rivali, and that's great. I'm super grateful for the learning that I did, for the growing. I love that I grew into the character and got to portray three voiced characters in a canon Zelda game.
That's nuts.
But that's 5 years ago. Breath of the Wild, no, 6 years ago at this point. That was 6 years ago.
Oh my God, you're right. Yeah.
And the idea that not a single project that I've worked on in the years since could match that is scary to me. So I try to find constant little reasons to remind me why I enjoy this. And it's been everything from like smaller indie projects to like Midnight or Path of the Midnight Sun, which is not Marvel's Midnight Suns, but Path of the Midnight Sun, where I just had a blast voicing a particular character, to a project that I can't talk about yet, where I'm very proud of the stuff that I did, and I hope it picks up. I didn't expect Genshin to be as big as it was, but I'm incredibly grateful for it, and it's given me a lot of opportunities for going out to conventions and meeting fans in person. And so, whether it's impactful for me or impactful for the audience, every project is going to be someone's favorite for some reason. And so, to paraphrase something from Will Smith, I don't go out trying to like build a legacy for myself. I just look at each individual opportunity and I say, I'm going to do the best job that I can with this opportunity. I'm going to focus on it. I'm going to give it my love and my attention and my commitment. And then I'm going to take pride in the work that I've done. And then I'm going to move on to the next one. And my hope, my faith is that as a result of that, I will build the wall over time, which is unfortunately a terrible phrase to say in, post-presidency years, but that I will have built this legacy for myself that people will look back and say, wow, Sean has a really solid track record where he cares so much about these projects that he works on, no matter whether it's a smaller project or a bigger AAA company or a franchise or a first-time game. I'm excited to see what he brings to the table next. And that is what brings those opportunities when those clients say, hey, we brought you in for more characters on this, or we thought your voice would be a great fit for this because we know you do this type of role really well. Or even, as has happened before, clients saying, we wanted to bring you in because we need a bunch of background roles filled. And we know that you're capable of portraying a lot of different role types while making them sound different from each other. So we trust you enough that we want to hire you without auditioning you so that you can help solve our problem of the day. And so that's how I want to continue. I just want to be reliable, trustworthy, ranged, quality. I want people to think of me and go, I know that Sean is an actor, and I know that he's a damn good actor and that he's passionate about what he does no matter what the project. So I have confidence that if we hire him, that he's going to give us the same love and attention that he does to these other projects.
Yeah. Honestly, very well said. Kind of a silly question. I know you were talking about, this is why you love doing, I'm just going to do the best job on this one and then moving on to the next one. I know it might seem a bit unlikely with your work schedule, but have you considered like starting up like maybe, I don't know, directing projects or maybe casting or any of that stuff?
I would not want to step into the shoes of a casting director. I did do one for like a hospital, like professional ethics or like info privacy e-learning thing. And it's very difficult, very stressful to try and narrow down a wide pool of auditioners into the final people that you cast, even when there's multiple legitimate options. Also because directing scares me just because I know that I have a way that I enjoy performances. And while I have had directing gigs that I've willingly taken on where I do feel like I had a positive impact on the overall quality of the performance, it still worries me that I may start to guide people into what I want to hear rather than what I know they're capable of. You know what I mean? So I would just rather the actors have their own freedom. I'd rather educated or talented, experienced directors take the helm. And the few times that I have had to direct, mostly what I try to do is go, I want you to imagine the scene like this. This is what the character's feeling. This is what they're experiencing. How do you interpret that? How do you carry that across and let them take the reins from there? But at the end of the day, I'm very much a focused actor. I want to do acting. I want to portray the characters. I feel like that is my niche, and that's my wheelhouse. That's my strength, and I want to focus on that mainly so that I can continue doing the best job that I'm capable of doing.
Yeah. So what would you say were some of the most emotionally difficult, like, roles? Like, getting into, like,
Definitely.
yeah.
Rivali was the most emotionally difficult from a professional standpoint, just because I really struggled at first to understand what his motivations were before I knew more about the story. But it was a good lesson in getting out of my own head and figuring out, that even if I wasn't sure what I was doing, that I have to be willing to rely on my director and help have them guide me to where I need to be. In terms of the actual performance itself, Subaru Natsuki from ReZero was very hard because not only did I have to go on a couple rants about topics that I have genuinely said to people in my own wording, but there's a particular series of scenes in season 2 that is basically him saying goodbye to his parents with the assumption that he may never get to see them again, which is something I already had to do with my mom and was basically practice for doing that with my dad, neither of which is very fun to experience emotionally.
Right. And as far as Genshin Impact goes, how would you say that, like, I know you mentioned that it really helped you, like, I mean, you've been getting invited to a lot of conventions, and it helped you, you know, build a bigger community. But like for Genshin Impact, how has it? What is something that like how what is the appeal? Like how does it appeal to you? Like as far as like was it the aesthetics? Is it the character, the look, or is it something about the game that just really just draws you into it and your experience
For
with it?
Genshin Impact?
Yeah, or it could just be for any of the stuff that you worked on, not just for Genshin.
Go ahead and ask the first part of that question to me again, because I
Yeah,
wasn't
for
sure if I
Genshin.
understood.
Okay, so like for Genshin, what was it about the game that really just what drew you into Genshin? Like, and
Uh,
what
that they
made you
hired
fall in
me.
love with it?
So, well, no, because like I actually haven't. I mean, this isn't a secret. This is well known to a lot of fans, even in the game itself. But I've never played Genshin Impact. At the time that it released, I was already I would say, ankle deep in another gacha called World Flipper and neck deep in one called Dragalia Lost, and I was not interested in throwing my money into a third random summon game. That coupled with the fact that, like I said, I just don't have the kind of time necessary to keep up to date on games like that anymore. But what happened with Genshin was that they felt that I could provide a fitting voice for character. They had me do a live in-person audition for him. They liked it. They hired me. And of course, I do my best to understand the world so that I can be authentic in my performance and be respectful and true to the character and his motivations. But I don't think it's a question of what drew me into the world, because this is, at the end of the day, this is my job. I am going to find things that I enjoy. I like that D-Luke is self-confident. I like that he's in perspective. I like that, he can have his funny moments when he's showing his disdain for other characters, how heartwarming he can be when he shows his affection towards the Traveler, or the people of Mondstadt. But that is part of developing my performance for a character, and it's something I have to be cognizant of. So in that case, it sounds heartless to say it, but it isn't necessarily a personal passion to the game specifically. It is a general passion for my job and about learning about these other worlds and what my place in them is, what my role in them is, and helping bring that universe to life so that it can be just as fun for other people to experience.
Yeah, right on. Sorry about that. I was just listening. But yeah, anything else that you want to share? I think you've pretty much discussed everything that we should be looking forward to. Any last piece of advice that you want to close us out on, at least?
I think that's basically it. I mean, I would just reiterate the same important lesson that I said earlier, which was, we're in an online world. It's increasingly becoming more and more necessary, especially in this career, to be connected to our audiences, which comes with its own sort of scariness regarding parasocial relationships, because there's just this unwritten expectation that we are going to be accessible 24/7, or at least that we are, supposed to respond within a timely manner or keep people updated on our day-to-day, even if we're not the kind of folks that want to broadcast our lives to the entire world. And it can be very scary to think about. So I just caution people to be aware of what you're sharing, aware of, to really think about what is important to you and what you stand for. And just pick your battles, because you don't know who's watching. You don't know who's listening. You especially don't know what clients or studios are looking at what you post online. And you never want to give someone a reason to want to make your life a living hell, or you don't want to, or a justified reason to make your life a living hell. And you never want to give people a reason to see you as a risk when there's hundreds, if not literally thousands of other people that can do the same job that you're doing, and just need to not be as much of a risk. So that's how I view it. I think if you stay positive, if you stay respectful, but you also stay true to your morals and true to your ethics, just strive to be the best person that you can be on any given day, and it will generally work out pretty well for you.
Absolutely. Yep, 100% agree. Yeah, I don't have anything to add to that, but you just pretty much hit it, man. Social media that we can find you on? What?
Twitter would be VA Sonic Mega, like voice actor Sonic Mega. Twitch is just Sonic Mega, SONICMEGA. Those are the main two that people can follow me on. Twitter is where I tend to be more active in a general sense. Twitch is just when I'm streaming to my community, but I'm always interested in people joining the community. Outside of that, I don't think there's anything else, and I'm kind of happy with that, because not interested in making videos on TikTok, and I would really rather that people not have my phone number.
Yeah. And on that note, any last words? Do you have any closing, outro or?
What outro would you like for your show?
Hi, my name is Sean Chiplock. I do this. You can hear me on and you just watch Station Square podcast, or you just tune into Station. Yeah, something like that.
I'm Sean Chiplock, professional voiceover artist, and you just tuned in to Station Square podcast.
We'll just go with that.
There you go.
Be sure to check out his other roles. If IMDb isn't featured, behind the voice actor, wherever you can find him on. But he's everywhere. Just want to emphasize that. But yeah, thank you very much for watching, everybody. And sorry for the tech issues. It's been a day.
It has been a day, for sure.
Exactly. Regardless, hope everybody's staying safe out there and staying cool. And yeah, I'll see you all next time. And until then, stay awesome and punch every day in the face, like my friend Brad Storm would say. And yeah, take care, y'all, and stay tuned for next time. See ya. Bye.